reading the chart called the basis of the atom. The oppositely moving lines of a forming wave are but the moving apices of two opposing cones, tracing the changing focal points of an expression of energy from its conception in the stability of inertia to the simulation of stability in mass. During the journey, the positive action traces the line of the wave simultaneously into its positive and its negative half. The apices of both cones are positive. They are storm center vortices, moving away from low pressures toward high pressures. They meet reproduced counterparts of themselves in the equally high resisting pressures of adjoining waves. During the journey, tonal pressure walls are erected at intervals, defined by the formula of the locked potentials, which become the controlling planes of all systems, atomic, solar, or stellar. To know the wave is to know the secret of creation. And then there's some words there in the diagram, but I will read what is at the bottom here. Positive charge attracts positive charge and expels negative discharge. Charging lines of force are inductive lines which move toward the apices of their cones of energy and away from their bases. Negative discharge repels both positive charge and negative discharge. Discharging lines of force are conductive lines which move away from the apices and toward the bases of their cones of energy. The pressure walls of any wave shown in their locked potential positions. These pressure walls are the basis of the elements and the controlling planes of all systems. Now that is what is on the page that has the chart of the basis of the atom. Now to continue where I left off in reading. Up above Hudson Bay on this planet is a shifting point known as the North Magnetic Pole. This is the planet's point of maximum electric charge. This and a corresponding shifting point near the South Pole are the 2 points of maximum generation. At these 2 points of our nameless planet, the universal force connects its charging wires to this storage battery, which we call the Earth. These points shall therefore be termed the charging poles. The charging poles are practically 20 degrees away from the pole of rotation. A circle drawn through them would define the polar magnetic base of this planet. North of the equator, 23 degrees 27 feet 8 inches is a line indicating the northerly limit of the intersection of this planet's ecliptic plane with itself. South of the equator, at the same distance, is the southerly limit of intersection. If the planet were a perfectly true sphere, the charging poles and the axis of rotation would coincide. There would be no magnetic base. There would also be no Cancer-Capricorn belt, for the plane of the ecliptic and of the equator would coincide. Furthermore, the plane of the Earth's ecliptic and its equator would coincide with the plane of the solar equator. This planet's ecliptic is inclined over 7 degrees to the plane of the solar equator, and its equator is inclined 23 degrees 27 feet 8 inches to the plane of its ecliptic. This results in a very low potential as compared to Mercury or to Venus, and a high one in respect to the outer planets. It also results in a low freezing point and a rigidity that would be impossible in a position 10 million miles nearer to the Sun or in a plane 2 degrees nearer to that of the solar equator. The potential position of this planet necessitates a small percentage of oblateness, or flattening of the poles. The oblateness of the planet accounts for the difference in about 3 degrees of the extension of the polar magnetic bases and the ecliptic expansion. The flatness at the poles is ascribed 1 1/2 degrees, and to the bulging at the equator is ascribed the other 1 1/2 degrees. As a planet finds a lower potential position for its relative mass, its oblateness increases, and so also do the polar magnetic bases, and Cancer-Capricorn belts move their positions toward each other. As Cancer-Capricorn belts and polar magnetic bases expand, the power of the mass to attract and to repel lessens. Oblateness also increases as centrifugal force causes its equator to bulge, suggestive of the beginning of the return journey from mass to plane. In any mass, the area of its ecliptic expansion, the areas of its polar magnetic bases, and the position of its changing poles are governed by the oblateness of the mass. In any mass, as oblateness decreases, polar magnetic bases and ecliptic expansion decrease their areas, and charging poles draw closer to its polar rotation. If the position of the charging electric poles and the Cancer-Capricorn belt in mass conditions the ability of mass to attract and to repel, and those positions are governed by the potential position of the mass itself, it must necessarily follow that the pressures which determine that potential position must be related to gravitation and rotation. Whoops, I said that wrong. It should be which determine that potential position must be related to gravitation and radiation. Now, here is a new chart. It is a chart that's called era. A wave is commonly presumed to be that portion indicated between letters A and A and A and A. I hope you can see these small A's on this page. Energy is constant. It has no variation. All of the energy of the universe is back of all of the motion of the universe. The apparent variability of energy is due solely to variability of dimension. Time dimension decreases its speed in favor of power dimension of higher potential. All energy is expressed in motion. The energy of thinking mind creates a universe of motion. All motion is expressed in waves. And now I will begin another chapter, which is called Expressions of Gravitation and Radiation. The wave. To know the wave is to know the secret of creation. The wave is nature's method of transferring the dimensionless concept of form in inertia to dimensional form in mass in motion by an impact of the energy of the concept against the inertial plane. All waves are the expression of force, a record of the universal constant, or its multiples of accumulated energy. The dimension of any wave are the dimensions of the multiples in universal ratios of the energy constant represented by that wave. Waves are not undulations such as those produced by the shaking of a rope up and down. They are actions and reactions beginning at and growing from harmonic points of impact upon the inertial plane of the wave. Nor are waves continuations of motion beginning at one source and transferred in sequence. Waves are simultaneously generated from inertia at intervals which are sequential and in dimensions which are opposed and sequential. Sequential intervals of the expression of force in motion are simultaneously recorded on the inertial planes of equilibrium of each consecutive octave of motion.